Good evening. Today is October 27th. This is the Board of Education meeting. We're at the North Park Elementary School. May I have a motion to go into executive session to discuss persons and whatever.
Motion.
Can't remember. Yeah, whatever.
Executive session.
All right,
Second.
got a second. All in favor? See, a blank sheet.
Confidential matters regarding.
Okay, we're in executive session. Good.
Okay.
Okay. At this time, can I have a motion to return to open session, please?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion on that? All in favor? At this time, we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance. Over there. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. There are no modifications to the agenda tonight. May I have a motion to adopt tonight's agenda?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion on that? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Oh, I don't get to do this one. Unless you want me to.
No.
You doing the board member? or-
Yes.
Okay.
I'm fiddling with papers here, 1 second. Okay. So good evening. It's that time of year again, and I will not repeat what I did last year, because last year I rattled off all the wonderful, huge responsibilities that board members take care of, and then I was told that's going to scare future people from volunteering to be a board member. But with that said, both Debbie and I work each year collaboratively to take a look at Board Member Appreciation Week. Our board meeting was moved. Technically, Board Member Appreciation Week was last week, but we're here today. And on behalf of myself, this is the governing board of the district. They set policy, they evaluate my performance, and they really weigh in on every decision that the district makes. And from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank them personally. On behalf of the district, I want to thank them for their commitment. I can honestly say to the community that Hyde Park Central School District has 8 now with our student member, extremely dedicated and knowledgeable school board members. I've worked with many boards, and I will tell you that this is an informed board. They do their homework, they ask great questions, and they really give of themselves to community. It is 100% a volunteer job, and they take it very seriously, and I always feel that this is a board who puts students first and the health of the entire student and staff at the forefront of all of their thinking and decision-making. And I think you've done great things for the community and great things for the Hyde Park Central School District. So thank you. And in recognition of school board member recognition, we have presented each of the board members with a keychain, and it says Board Member HPCSD 2016. They can be used as nunchucks if needed. They are heavy. Oh, they're beautiful. And Debbie did some baking for the board members tonight. So again, on behalf of the Hyde Park Central School District and from me personally, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much to an incredible Board of Education. Thank you.
Oh, while you're on the subject of baking, thank you for the wonderful pie. It was delivered for our meal. It was really good. Okay. Now we have let's move active.
Okay. So at this time, it is fortuitous and somewhat planned that we are here to, for the formal portion of our Pride, to recognize North Park and their award from the Michelle Obama Initiative for the Let's Move Active Schools National Award. Are you going to read the press release or am I? Do you want me to? Okay. I have that here too. Did I just go on the opposite direction? So come on up, Lisa and Margaret. We have what, another plaque? And is the banner, did the banner come?
We have the banner.
Okay.
The banner.
So, drum roll, please. There we go. So, Hyde Park, New York, September 7th, 2016. Let's Move Active Schools, part of First Lady Michelle Obama's Let's Move initiative, dedicated to ensuring 60 minutes of physical activity a day is the norm in a K-12 school. North Park is honored with the 2016 Let's Move Active Schools National Award for its outstanding efforts in creating an active school environment. Let's Move Active Schools National Award is the nation's top physical education and physical activity distinction for K-12 schools and celebrates a school's commitment to providing students with at least 60 minutes a day or before, during, or after school physical activities. Only 544 schools across the entire United States achieved this prestigious honor. In the words of Principal Lisa Hecht, the North Park community is thrilled to be recognized for our ongoing focus on improving our students' health through our nutrition education and fitness programs. The Hyde Park Central School District has one of the lowest obesity rates in the Mid-Hudson Valley region. The support of the Let's Move Active Schools program helps us sustain our efforts to establish good health habits for our children and families. Powered by a national collaborative of leading health, education, and private sector organizations, Let's Move Active Schools equips schools with the resources, programs, professional development, and grants to increase physical education activity and physical activity opportunities for students, and to cultivate an active school environment. Why are active schools so important? Because active kids do better. Regular physical activity not only helps kids stay healthy and strong, but it can also lead to higher test scores, improved attendance, increased focus, better behavior in class, enhanced leadership skills, and a lifetime of healthy habits. According to Margaret Robley, students who spearheaded the whole project, along with Joan Magnuson, a partnership between one of our teachers and our physical education teacher, and hopefully you all remember how many times we've had Margaret up here for honoring Margaret for being recognized by the New York State Physical Education Association. So according to Margaret, students at North Park in grades K through 3 now attend physical education classes 3 times in a 6-day cycle, while students in grades 4 and 5 attend physical education class twice in a cycle. Each week, announcements regarding Wellness Wednesdays and Fitness Friday encourage students to eat healthy snacks and exercise. School-wide activities such as Project ACES, All Children Exercising Simultaneously, Jump Rope for Heart, and Veggie Taste Test Day provide opportunities for students to exercise and make healthy choices. In addition, our Family Fitness Night and Bike Rodeo provide opportunities for families and students to exercise together outside of school. We commend North Park Elementary's model work around enhancing physical education and physical activity opportunities and inspiring students to go from 0 to 60, both in the classroom and in life, said Charles Bergenson, the Let's Move Active Schools Executive Director, North Park Elementary School is leading the way in this generation-changing movement that is transforming our nation's schools into active and healthy hubs. So, in celebration of the 60th anniversary of the President's Council on Fitness, Sports, and Nutrition, Let's Move Active Skills is excited to celebrate its national award schools and to help more students accelerate their journey to leading healthy, active lifestyle. Let's Move Active Schools will provide champions with continued information, resources, and inspiration needed to build healthier lives for future generations. And as part of this award and accolade, the banner will be hung proudly in our newly resurfaced gymnasium and newly repainted. So congratulations, North Park.
I'm actually going to turn the mic over to Mrs. Robley so she can share a little bit about what got us to this place. There's actually a very extensive application process that both Mrs. Robley and Joan Magnuson undertook and actually have designed some activities to allow us to be eligible for this award. So I'm going to turn this over now to Mrs. Robley.
Thank you very much. First of all, this is a team effort. This isn't just the physical education program. This is a team effort from Lisa's leadership and support of everything we do here that supports healthy choices for our students, to the classroom teachers who support our Go Noodle weeks that we have provided with our student ambassadors spearheading that campaign. Go Noodle is a program where provides physical activity breaks for students in a fun way in a classroom environment that's appropriate. And one of the things that we did last year was our student ambassadors promoted this Go Noodle Day. We taught teachers how to use it and then provided an opportunity where the student ambassadors advertised it with posters and supported it in the classroom and had leadership in the classroom to encourage their teachers and their classmates to exercise and learn that Go Noodle. And now almost every teacher has their own Go Noodle account, and they use Go Noodle on almost a daily, if not weekly, basis. So our student ambassador program through Fuel Up to Play 60, which is one of the partner programs of Let's Move Active Schools, provides a leadership opportunity for students in grades 3, 4, and 5. And we have this year about 30 student ambassadors. They meet once a month before school, and then we do things certainly during the school day. But they come up with ideas where we're trying to increase physical activity and healthy choices. As part of Fuel Up to Play 60, we have to do a physical activity play, and we have to do a healthy eating play. So we have to have at least those two things during the year. Last year we had a veggie taste test day, and students picked the vegetables that we were going to try, something that they might not normally eat. We had radishes, cauliflower, leaf lettuce, and turnips. And students, again, the leaders in their classroom, brought we did it at a meeting, cut everything up, got it ready for them. And then they led that veggie taste test in their classroom. They took a survey, had students decide whether they liked it, they didn't like it, or they weren't sure, and then that letter went home to the parents, encouraging parents to try it again, because we know that trying something once doesn't always mean that you're going to like it. We encourage students to try it at least 3 or 4 different times. We did a first ever bike rodeo day in collaboration with the Dutchess County Transportation Safety Board, and our student ambassadors led that project, and we had students come with their bicycles and their families and set up a safety course out in the parking lot where they had to go through a series of safety stations, checking their helmets, making sure they could stop, turn, and do all kinds of different things. And then we also had a healthy snack there where, and this was the student ambassador's idea, they wanted the participants to make a bicycle out of vegetables. So they chose the vegetables they thought would be good to make a bicycle. They made their artwork on their plate, and they got to eat it. So they're really a great group, and that partnership with the students, the classroom teachers, and Lisa's support has allowed us to do a lot of these kind of things, both in school and out of school. So should I read the letter?
Yeah, and mention how many schools in New York State. New York State, yeah.
Oh, yes, 544 schools nationally were awarded the award, but only 11 in New York State. So we feel proud to be one of those 11. It is a 2-year award, so we'll be eligible to apply again for 2 years. Out of, yes, over 700 schools. Yes, and it is an extensive application process where we have to provide master schedules, my schedule, how often students attend phys ed, what kind of quality phys ed. There's cafeteria questions. Field Up to Play 60 ambassadors came with me to the cafeteria, where we asked the cafeteria manager questions about kinds of things that were offered. So it really was an extensive application, but we're proud to be a part of it. So this is a letter that we received from Michelle Obama. Dear North Park Elementary School, congratulations on your 2016 Let's Move Active Schools National Award. I'm thrilled to commend your school's outstanding work and leadership in the areas of physical education and physical activity. We know that when young people are active, they perform better in school, show increased focus, and demonstrate higher confidence. That is why we launched Let's Move Active Schools, to make it easier for communities across the country to cultivate learning environments where all students participate in at least 60 minutes of physical activity before, during, and after school each day, and practice healthy habits that will last a lifetime. As a Let's Move Active Schools National Award recipient, your school is championing efforts to ensure 60 minutes of physical activity a day is the norm in every student's educational experience. I commend your commitment to health and wellness and challenge you to keep prioritizing physical education and physical activity for your entire school community. Again, congratulations. I hope you take great pride in this tremendous accomplishment. Thank you again for your continued efforts, and I wish you the very best. Sincerely, Michelle Obama. And we read this to our students at our Healthy Highway Assembly, and we didn't tell them who the letter was from until the end, and they were very proud, and as we all are. So thank you very much.
So on behalf of the district, we would like to present Margaret and Joan Magnuson, and we'll let you take Joan's to her, with a certificate of recognition for nominating the North Park Elementary School for this initiative. Congratulations. Thank you so much.
And just in case you're wondering whether this actually has an impact, the last early release day when the students were heading out to go home at 11:30, one of the 5th graders stopped on the way out and said to me, "I am so excited to have a day. I'm going to go home and sit down and watch video games. But please don't tell Mrs. Robley that."
Okay. You want to give...
Okay, James will continue Pride if you have a listing.
Oh yeah, yeah. There's a lot of stuff actually that happened this past couple of weeks. So on Thursday last week, our school held our first and hopefully beginning of an annual Hispanic History Fest. It was an event where Hispanic students from different cultures brought food from their ethnic countries, and they shared with all the kids that were in attendance. And a lot of students actually came to this event, and there was a bunch of food there. It was pretty good. And there was a sophomore who actually kind of got the whole thing together after the idea was brought forth by one of our school counselors. His name was Javier Roland, and he just completely took charge of putting everything together and asking for people to bring food and stuff, and it was a really great event. It went really smoothly. And yesterday, our executive council, student government, they hosted a quiz bowl, and there were some pretty great prizes that I don't think were given before. And the questions were great, and there was a bunch of competition between all the teams, and it was just a lot of fun. And some of our art students were able to go on a trip, like a little field trip, to visit some landscapes and to draw some, or to do some quick sketches, so they're able to experience what it's like for professional artists when they have to go look at a landscape and paint it, because they can't really just sit out there and paint. They have to do a quick sketch and then bring it back to the studio and finish it up. And there's also a bunch of events that are coming to the school. There's the fall drama coming, and the lip sync battle. And these are just a couple of pretty great events that are coming to FDR and great opportunities for the community to come and see what the school district has made of these students. So it's pretty exciting.
Great, thank you.
That would be the 4th and the 5th. The drama is November 4th and 5th, next Friday and Saturday.
Great.
Before we get off to high school, there was the Harvest Pops concert last night. It went very well. It's an opportunity, it's actually the first opportunity for the community to see what the students have done at the beginning of the year. Usually, you know, it shows that it's the first concert, but not last night. It went very well. I thought most of the performances were outstanding, and they're only going to get better. So the next time there is one, if you look at our website, you'll note it enough to go, and it's well worth the hour. So.
It certainly was much more entertaining than what you'd find on television, especially if you were looking at presidential debates.
Okay.
I have just a couple more. I want to give a shout out. Each year, the Poughkeepsie Journal runs a Scary Stories contest. And so this year, representing the Hyde Park Central School District, Gemma Corrado at Ralph R. Smith got a first place showing with her scary story titled Haunted Lane. And here at North Park Elementary, Danielle Noakes got an honorable mention for her submission. So congratulations to Gemma and Daniel. No, did I say Danielle? I meant Daniel. Daniel. Yeah, Daniel, for taking the time to write one of their scary stories and submitting it to the Poughkeepsie Journal.
Anybody else have any pride? We had a meeting since the football team won? I don't think.
I don't.
They had, yeah, they got two, they didn't advance in the actual sectional competition or regional competition, but they did get 2 games, and they won the first game against Kingston. They were scheduled to play tonight, but that game was canceled about noontime today, and we played tomorrow at the high school.
Okay.
Great.
That brings us to superintendent's report. You got?
Yes, I just wanted to say at our last board meeting, we were talking about the AP Calculus and Calculus class that was combined, and we are splitting that into 2 sections, so AP Calc will be in one classroom and Calculus will be in another. The final details and the teacher assignment will be done most likely within a week, so just an update there.
Okay. That brings us to North Park Elementary presentation.
So welcome back, Lisa.
Yeah.
Can you pass that to Debbie? Yeah. So as well, Lisa's getting ready, for those of you who may or may not know, each year we travel to, at one point, to all of our schools, the 4 elementary schools and the middle school and the high school. This is our first visit to a school, and we are happy to be here at North Park. And that is an opportunity for the principal to share very specifically what is going on in the school building here.
Hello again, everyone. Before I start, I do want to just take a moment to thank the board for all of your service, all of the support that you give to our district, to North Park, to me in my efforts at providing the best that we can for our students. So thank you so much. And as I look, 2 of you were here when I started, so I'm particularly grateful for all of your service. Thank you. Okay, let's see, what time is it? 10 minutes, right? I'd like to just begin. Greer had mentioned to us that Aviva will be presenting all of the state data, the state assessment data, at another time. And so rather than having us each repeat our own component, Greer asked that we share the data that we're working with ourselves, that is meaningful to us at the moment. So I want to start just by talking a little bit about what's happening currently at North Park in terms of literacy instruction. We made the decision this summer to roll back a little bit on the requirement requirements for using the New York State Engaged New York modules for ELA, for 3.5, and the listening and learning domains. They're still optional, and they're still being supported in the district, but we felt it was important at this point to give teachers a little bit more flexibility to allow kind of for their own discretion around what will work best for their students, but still maintaining the consistency that we've been striving for the last several years. And one of the ways that we're seeking that consistency is by embedding professional development right in the classrooms through our work with Generation Ready, our literacy consultants. In addition to that, I'm proud to say that we've had quite a bit of homegrown professional development in this building. Our reading teachers have taken on a really significant leadership role. Just yesterday, there was a professional development happening in the morning, a work session, and 18 of our teachers were attending a collaborative effort to a book study, a couple of book studies actually, on literacy. And we also, this year, will continue to do the data work that we've been doing all along, where we try to identify small goals, small sets of data, small sets of students, and really target our interventions so that we can move to the next level. And I'd like to show you an example of our data from last year and how that happened. If you look at this, what you're seeing here are the percentages of our students who are at or above the benchmark on their Fountas and Pinnell reading assessments. If you look at the K2, because that's where our Generation Ready support has been focused, if you look at the K-2 progress, we've been kind of stuck at around in the low 60s for several years now in terms of our rate of passing the benchmark assessments. And last year, with that targeted intervention, you can see that we jumped from 63% in 2014, 63% in 2015, and jumped to 69% in 2016. So, and the one thing that was different, the thing that was most significantly different, was the support of the Generation Ready work. So I'm really excited that we are continuing that work this year. Math instruction, we are continuing with the math modules. One thing that we added over the course of last year and this year is a support tool called Everyday Counts, the calendar math. And I'm just mentioning the Tier 2 AIS support because one of the things that is different between our reading support and our math support is that we have reading teachers, and we have wonderful math teaching assistants, but their training happened here. They're not math teachers, and I think that one of the things we would look forward to is being able to explore how to bring in some more math support. We have a really solid, active BLT, Building Leadership Team at North Park. We have right now 9 members, and it's split between parents and staff. We've taken on, over the last few years, our primary goal has been to increase student engagement. A few years back, we decided to do some research in that. We really looked at what the link is between student engagement and student achievement. One of my personal goals for the entire time that I've been here has been to see our 5th graders walking through the door in the morning with as much excitement and enthusiasm as our kindergartens. And while I don't have a measure for that, I have to say that in the last few days I've been just watching, knowing that I was going to be speaking tonight. And you know, certainly not 100%, but if you're standing out in our lobby in the morning when kids are coming in, there's a lot of smiles and happiness and enthusiasm and excitement for being here. Some of the things that we've taken on with the BLT is we do have had math, we've had parent curriculum nights. Our plan this year is to have it be a homework help night where we give some support to parents around what kinds of questions to ask kids after they've been reading and how to develop some games that will improve math facts. So that's coming this year. Also coming, we have started a buddy program where we match the third graders with kindergartners, fourth graders with first graders, and fifth graders with second graders. And we do monthly activities, mostly reading activities, but the teachers on their own come together more often for craft activities, for I just noticed Mrs. Collins is in the audience, and she does some great support of our local veterans, and we've had kids coming together to create projects for the veterans. This year, we're also planning a College and Career Week. It'll actually pair up with our Healthy Highways Assembly, where we're going to choose the road to your future as the road that we travel on for that period of time. This came out of having one of our first graders express to her reading teacher that she didn't think she would be going to college. And we thought, it's not too early. Elementary school is not too early to start to try to expand kids' thinking about what their futures could hold. So we do plan on a College and Career Week this year. And this is also North Park's 50th anniversary of being open as a school building. So we are planning a 50th anniversary celebration as well. And because I like data, we have done a survey of our students for the last 2 years to try to get a handle on the student engagement question. The first year was our first year of doing a survey, and we did learn from that first experience that not all of our questions were posed in such a way that we got what we felt like were good answers from our students. Questions might have been a little vague. So in our second iteration, we kind of cleared those questions up a little bit. But we did have these, I think it's 8 or 9 questions that were similar from the first survey to the second. So this was our first chance to actually take some baseline data from 2015 and see if there was any change in 2016. So you can see along the bottom, those were the topics of the questions that were consistent from one survey to the next. And it's not tremendous growth, but it is some improvement, and we hope to see a continuation of that this year. Some of the other goals for this year for the building, as I said already, continued work with Generation Ready. We are also, I'm not sure how much you're aware that we've had a contract with someone who's been supporting our district in the sanctuary model. Sanctuary, very briefly, because it's hard to explain, actually. I find it challenging to explain, but very briefly, it's a model of helping to understand the impact of trauma, adversity, and chronic stress on individuals. And we look at it both through the lens of children and adults, and how in a system can those things affect people's performance, people's functioning. So we are having training, ongoing training this year here at North Park to help better understand our students and each other as we go forward. And then the other piece of that is that it is part of some planning that I'm doing this year for some transitioning. There are a number of staff members this year that are anticipating retiring at the end of this year, some really key members of our community. And we have talked as a staff about how important it feels to continue our traditions, our culture, our community. So some of the sanctuary work is around establishing our norms in such a way that when new staff comes to North Park, there'll be someone here to help continue those norms in the future. That's our hope and our intention. There's a number of other things that we're doing with our transition planning. Probably one of the things that I have seen the most positively so far in our short time this year is we compiled a list of the activities and events that feel like they strike at our heart of here in North Park, and asked teachers to rate those activities with a 1, 2, or 3. 1 meant that this was so important to that individual staff member that they were willing to become sort of an intern this year. They would take on that activity so that they would be the person who knows how to do it in the future. A 2 meant it feels important, but I don't really have the time to give to it. And number 3 was, it's really not that important to me. And what we ended up with was a list of about 12 to 15 activities, and every activity had at least one person who listed it as a 1. So we have started a number of committees this year, and staff members are coming and joining in and sort of picking up, taking the ball into their hands, and that's something that I'm very pleased with. Just to touch back on Healthy Highways, I won't spend a lot of time on this slide because we had the Pride piece. But one of the things that I did want to touch on was that when Margaret spoke about the student ambassadors, they have just genuinely taken on a huge leadership role, and I'm so pleased with the work that they've done. And one of the activities they selected to do this year was the Great Fitness Race. Now, for years, we have had fitness calendars that come out of Margaret's office, and it lists activities for the kids should be doing at home every day with their families, either by themselves or with their families, to stay fit. And so this year, the students decided we would have a Great Fitness Race. They came up with the terms of the race, and it basically involves having, in like the first month, as long as 3 kids in the class turned in their fitness calendar, their class would stay in the race. And then next month, it'll be 4 kids will have to submit the calendar for the class to stay in the race. And the goal is to get as many classes still in the race in June. So we'll let you know how we do. We also have an amazing parent-teacher association here at North Park, and the amount of work and effort that goes into first the fundraising and then the activities that are made possible because of the fundraising is just outstanding. We have great attendance at meetings. We have so many activities, it's hard for me to even pinpoint, and several of them are activities that you are likely familiar with. Promising Pals. Oh, these are actually overall activities. The Promising Pals, where we connect our 5th graders with community members. Family Fitness Night, Mrs. Robley made reference to, where families come and exercise together. We are continuing the circus project this year. That'll be in a couple of weeks. It's the week after we come back from Thanksgiving, so we'll let you know when that performance is. The PTA has been able to fund a number of those things, but they've also done things like provided for the tent at Moving Up Day so that all of our children's family members are able to come and participate. We've had them buy T-shirts for every student and staff member in the building for field days so that we can feel joined as one building. There's my PTA slide. I think I pretty much touched on most of that. The PTA also supports grade level grants, where each grade level gets to select one thing that they would like to spend their money on. And it's been a number of different things over the years. The pond project has been helped out by the grade level grants. We've gotten equipment for classrooms, not equipment, but supplies for classrooms. We've had classes who were going on field trips. The PTA is not able to provide for the field trip itself, but they've done things to enhance the field trip. Like, for example, if the kids are going to a museum or an aquarium where there's an IMAX movie available, they'll use the money for the tickets so that the kids can actually participate in the movie without it making the cost of the field trip prohibitive. And that's somebody else's slide. So thank you so much. Anybody have any questions?
Yeah, on your literacy data, how is it that you determine what they are in the beginning year and the end? Can you explain the Fanta and Pinnell?
Fountas and Pinnell.
Fountas.
Fountas and Pinnell is it's a kit. It's a test kit, it's an assessment kit. And all of the students are assessed at the beginning of the year and at the end of the year. We're able to do additional assessments during the year. If we have a student that we're concerned about and we want to see if they're making enough progress, we can do that. But every student is assessed at the beginning and the end of the year. And each grade level has a certain number. The results run from A to Z. So the beginning of kindergarten, the very first level, lowest level reader begins at a level A, and the successful 8th grade student, we expect them to be at a level Z by the end of 8th grade. So each year there are 3 to 4 to 5 levels that students are supposed to progress through. And we look at where are they supposed to be and how many of the students actually are at that level.
So it's almost a standardized test, because it's the same test every.
What's not standardized is that there is some subjectivity, as teachers are listening to students read and posing questions and evaluating their results. So one of the things that we've actually worked pretty hard on is making sure that as a staff we are asking the same kinds of questions and evaluating the students' responses similarly so that we can actually compare.
And the other question I have is, it was a new question, is to feel safe on that. And it's only, what, 71% about? Is feel safe in the schools? Or-
The choices of responses, and I probably should have indicated that, the choices of responses were yes, sort of, and not really. So those were just the yes answers. When I went back, and I can tell you when I look back, that the actual no answers was a very small percentage. It was, I'm going to say, 5%. That, there was the yes, and then there was the sort of.
Okay, I feel better now.
Okay, good. Thank you for pointing that out.
Any other questions?
Yeah. In the literacy data, one of the things that you credited for the improvement is Generation Ready. Can you give us a few words about what Generation Ready is?
Absolutely. Generation Ready is a literacy consultant firm. And last year, we had 4 different consultants that worked with our district. Our focus was K-2, so the largest majority of days in the building were spent with kindergarten through 2nd grade classrooms and teachers. There was some work at 3 through 5 as well. One of our consultants, Linda Weinbaum, has worked here and at Violet Avenue, and we saw some really great success. As you saw in the data, Violet Avenue also experienced positive results. And so this year, Linda is in all 4 of our buildings. She comes, I think this year she'll be 13 days here at North Park. She's different days in different buildings depending on the Title I support, et cetera. But she comes in the morning, and her first hour is always a professional development hour. So teachers voluntarily come from 8 to 9 and participate in a specific literacy topic. And then how we've worked it out here at North Park is she spends her mornings, teachers can sign up to have her come into the classrooms in the morning to either demonstrate a literacy strategy, to observe the teacher performing a literacy strategy so that she can provide feedback and suggestions. And then in the afternoon, where primary teachers have the majority of their prep periods, in the afternoon she's available for teachers to request to come and work with them during their prep period so that they can have dialogue and conversation. So the morning time is push right into the classroom, the afternoon time is dialogue with the teachers.
So effectively, Generation Ready is a consultant that provides personalized PD for instructors.
Right, we could call it coaching. It's that sort of a model.
Okay.
And they're out of Teachers College, Columbia University.
Okay. In the student survey, there was a general uptick in almost all of the categories that you showed us. Do you have root causes?
What we did when we analyzed originally, we looked at all the surveys that we had on hand. We had student surveys from a few years ago when we did the K-12 Insight surveys, so we had that to start with. We had done some parent surveys as well, so when we created the initial survey that we gave for the students, we were looking for some specific things. We wanted to know, did they feel safe? We wanted to know if they liked school. Were they interested in the work that they were doing? Was it too easy for them? Was it too hard for them? Which came out of the research we had done about what you need to look for in student engagement. So the questions were connected to the work that we had done prior. I would say that some of the activities that we developed, I'm hoping worked. I'm hoping that's why we saw a little bit of an uptick. I'm certainly looking forward to more. The question that probably is the most important to me is the one that says, do you like school? I think that nails it for kids. If kids like school, they're probably learning and they probably feel successful.
Just one quick question again on the literacy data. For the 3rd grade, I'm curious did you do any analysis or have any insight as to why the drop between the end of year 2015 and the beginning of year 2000? 15. I mean, it's
Right, it's a
60,
dramatic
70.
drop. What I looked at was from the year before, because if we're looking at the cohort data, so the kids that were beginning of the year, 2015, were only 39% of the students were at benchmark at the beginning of the year. The previous year, at the beginning of the year, at second grade, 57% of them. What I saw at the end of the year was that 55%, which was much more in the ballpark with where they were as second graders. We do have a change in our population, and I please don't hear this as I'm assigning, making assumptions about the changes, but one of the changes that we do have in our population between second and third grade is we have a large number of students that join us for ENL services. And sometimes when they come in as third graders, they're still early enough in the program that their literacy skills are below grade level. That's why they're in the program, because their literacy skills are below grade level. And with the number of students that we have, if we have 10 or 12 students joining the grade level, it can really make a significant difference in the numbers. But that's not a typical drop. So I'm not sure. That's one of the things that we've been trying to do, is make sure, as I said earlier, that our teachers are all assessing kids similarly, so that if one teacher says this child is reading at an L, if the same child were to be assessed by another teacher, making sure that that teacher also sees it as an L. And that's work that we've been, say, kind of doing over the last few years, is looking for that consistency. So in the answer to the question is, I'm not sure how much of it is the influx of additional students and how much of it is we still need to get better at being consistent.
Because, looking at the numbers, significant drop, which would, I think the ENL might be very, very key to that number, but then again, the significant increase going from 39 to 55, that's a 16 percentage points, and that's based on the expectations for that year.
And this is not a great answer, but I honestly, in my gut, I think the 39 was a fluke. I think that there was something that, because if you look at the rest of it, like for the fourth grade data is pretty similar across the board. Like, there's not a lot of change. And when I see one data point that's a kind of an outlier, and then it sort of resolves itself by the next time around, it feels to me like, I'm not quite sure, but it feels fluky. I don't know if that's a good answer or not. What will be significant is what happens this year, because we just did our first round of Fountas and Pinnell assessments, and I haven't tallied all the results yet in terms of benchmark, but I'll be looking at that particular cohort of kids to see, did they maintain the 55% that we had at the end of the year? Did they lose ground over the summer the way that they seemed to the previous year? And that'll be telling. My gut is that it's going to level off, but I'll let you know.
Yeah, the other question, and it looks like to some extent maybe effective, we have had discussions in the past about the summer period being a time when students lose or lose ground on the area, and we put in programs that encourage or work with the kids during the school year to improve retention, and it looks like we've, in most cases, staying better than numbers I remember in the past. So.
Yeah, I'm going to say 5 years ago, we had a pattern here, and this was just as we were beginning to use the Fountas and Pinnell instead of the old DRAs, which you may remember from previous slides. We had a pattern here at North Park where our highest numbers were in kindergarten, and then every year after that, we had fewer and fewer kids hitting that benchmark. So by the time they left in 5th grade, we were at about 40% of our kids at benchmark. And all of the work that we've done in literacy in the last, I'm going to say, 5 to 8 years has turned that pattern around to where we're fairly stable, not high enough. I'm really, when I see the numbers starting to creep up into the 70s, now I'm feeling like 80% would be a really good place to get to in the near future. So, as I say, we've been pretty stable for the last few years, but not at a high enough level for me.
And we know when you get to 80%, somebody's going to say, well, 85 ain't going to be a bad place to be.
Well, I'll tell you why 80%. It's not just a random number for me. In the RTI work, in the world of RTI, response to intervention, thank you, I have to remember not to use jargon. The expectation is that with your basic general ed instruction, you would expect 80% of your kids to be at average or above levels. You would expect an additional, I believe it's 15% to be somewhat below, and then 5% to be significantly below. So I'm looking to get to that 80%, and then of course we would want it to go higher from there, but that's been sort of a number in my head for the last few years.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, I have one more question, but it's not on your slides.
Okay.
This is with the fitness part that we talked about, Margaret brought in earlier. One of the things that you always hear that recess and time is being cut, and the kids' attention span has been lessened. Are your teachers seeing an improved attention span from the students by breaking into these activities?
I'm going to tap into, if it's okay, I didn't even ask her, I didn't plant her in the audience, but Mrs. Collins is one of our second grade teachers. I would say that, and please confirm or deny, I would say that because we are putting in more physical activity within the school day for short periods of time. So for example, when Margaret talked about Go Noodle, it's like a 5-minute video that the kids get up and they physically move and are active, and then, what would you say?
Well, I've actually, this year,
Sorry to put her on the spot. This is Laura Collins, one of our second grade teachers.
hi there, how are you? Actually, this year, specifically the Go Noodle, which they were discussing, it's just a video you put up on your smartboard. It's educationally based. Many times it has some kind of underlying math concept or pattern, but it's a dance, and it gets the kids moving. I was seeing some real sort of kind of humdrum during math, and I was becoming very concerned about the fact that this was happening, and I felt like I was losing them by the end of the 50 minutes. And so now we do certain application problems, and if they do 2 or 3, then we can do a Go Noodle. So I have it like minimized on my computer, and then they all want to get up and they do it. Then we sit down and we do a couple more problems. Well, that turned the math subject area of our day, it gave it a whole new energy. So I would say that yes, having these concepts and the idea that physical fitness helps us learn, which we're really trying to get across, that literally your learning brain needs that circulation, it's helping. It's the kids are starting to get it even at a second grade level. So I would say all of that is very supportive of academics. Do I think recess is still too short? Yes. You can put that on the record. But yes.
Thank you. Anything else?
Yeah, with the Fontes and Pinnell benchmarks, are the expectations at the beginning of the year the same as the end of the year?
I'm not sure that no. There's the expectation at the beginning of the year, like let's say, for example, second grade. At the end of first grade, we expect children to be reading independently at a level I. So when they come into second grade, the expectation is that they'll get through the next 4 levels, J, K, L, M, by the end of the year. So that's what, when we look at, are they at benchmark, we're looking at it compared to where they should be for that time of the year.
Okay. So there's an expectation that they're going to be improving their skills over the span of the year. So what that means is if you see a higher percentage at or above benchmark at the end of the year, not only did the students who were above benchmark at the beginning of the year still above benchmark, but you've added students. Some students have improved more quickly.
Exactly, which is why, to me, that this going from 63% to 69% is pretty significant, because it takes a number of children. In fact, I can tell you that at first grade, the count was 11. It took 11 children to move from below to at or above for us to get from 63 to 69. I know that number because that was my goal.
Okay, thank you.
It's a very smart call.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Anything else?
Thank you. And if you're keeping score, your presentation was exactly 10 minutes.
I was going to say, the questions can't count, right? That doesn't count.
We added 17 minutes to, but they were all good questions. So I think it was well worth the time.
Terrific. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lisa. And
Okay.
Now we are ready for our summer school presentation with Lynette Williams. Lynette's been with us. This is her second year here at FDR as the assistant principal. And this past summer, Lynette took on the responsibility of summer school principal. And I just want to thank Lynette because it was not only just summer school principal for FDR, this was the first year that we hosted a regional summer school. So as Lynette will explain to you, it wasn't just our students, it was 4 other districts combined. So it was the first time it's ever been in Dutchess County, and I want to thank you for stepping up to the plate to take on that new and expanded responsibility.
Thank you very much, and thank you to the board members and to you, Dr. Reichik, and also you, Aviva, for the opportunity to serve as the summer school principal for such a monumental learning experience. So thank you very much. So I'd like to start with the vision, and the reason why is because, as Dr. Reichik said, this was a very new experience for every stakeholder that was involved. And so I knew that there would be plenty of decision-making, plenty of uncertainties, and so I thought to myself that it was important to have a framework so that when questions came up, we would be able to have a consensus around what the decision should be. So the vision was that all staff members would be committed to delivering evidence and research-based, high-quality instruction to promote academic excellence and socio-emotional growth for all summer school participants. So my thinking was, if we're unsure about a decision, if it helps to propel the vision forward and a consensus is reached, meaning the will of the group is understood, then we move forward. And if it doesn't propel our vision forward, then maybe we take a step back and we think again. So again, the regional summer school program was formed in collaboration with BOCES, hosted at FDR High School in Hyde Park, and the opportunity to serve students throughout the region was offered to 13 component districts for the purposes of credit recovery. Out of the 13 districts that had the opportunity to participate, 4 districts actually did: Hyde Park, Pine Plains, Red Hook, and Rhinebeck. And we had a total of 178 students from all of the 4 districts. So Hyde Park had the most number of students to attend summer school. We had 113 students from Hyde Park. Pine Plains sent 36 students, Red Hook 23, and Rhinebeck 6. And in terms of grade levels, we had 28 ninth graders to attend, 55 10th graders, 51 juniors, and 44 seniors. And out of this number, we had 7 students that were able to graduate as a result of summer school opportunities. So we ended up offering everything under the sun. Now, initially, it was supposed to be a pilot program, and we brought to the table certain course offerings that students might be interested in. But as we began to research further and met with guidance counselors, and I began to survey students, it seemed that there was really a need for more subjects than what was originally going to be offered. And you know, the concern was, this is the first year, let's just kind of pilot it. But then the thinking ended up being, again, how does this help to propel the vision forward? How does it best support students? And if we have students that are in need of living environment, and we have students that are in need of PE, specifically students that need to graduate, then let's build it and they shall come. And so, you know, my thinking was go hard or go home. It's okay, we'll do it, don't worry, we'll step up to the challenge and get it done. And so we did. So ultimately, we offered Algebra 1, 2, Earth Science was offered, but we didn't have students that needed to sign up through summer school because they had other courses that they felt were more pressing for them, primarily living environment. English 9, 10, 11, 12, Geometry, Global 9, 10, Living Environment, Participation in Government, PE, and US History. So out of all of the subjects that were offered and the subjects that students took, an overall of 93% of students achieved credit via summer school. So there were some students that did not earn credit, and those students were students who did not come to summer school, and attendance was a major concern, and so the recommendation was that they would not receive credit because we really wanted to make sure that the fidelity of the summer school program was maintained and that we offered rigorous instruction to all students. So part B to the process was the regents. And again, much like the decision to offer many courses, we also decided to offer all of the regents that the state was offering in August, as opposed to just a snapshot or only the regents that were linked to courses. So we had students come from all over Dutchess County for the purposes of taking the regents. Ultimately, we offered over 418 regents to students. For the regents, we had more districts that were able to participate. So we had Red Hook, Rhinebeck, Pine Plains, Paulding, Hyde Park, and we also had a student from Christian Faith as well as Coleman to come to FDR High School to take the regents. So ultimately, when I did the data analysis of the students that scored proficiently in the regents, most students scored proficiently in chemistry. But what was really interesting about this data was that I just thought it was important for everyone to be aware and transparent of what the proficiency rates were. But when we really analyzed the data, over 70% of students that came in just for the purposes of regents did not take summer school classes. So these are students who walked in cold, but had the opportunity to take regents where they otherwise might not have had the opportunity to take regents. So that was a great thing. It was also a financial benefit because districts paid for the regents separate from summer school. So the great thing here is that students had the opportunity. And when we looked at the data a little bit deeper, we noted that when students did take summer school classes and took the regents, we saw a significant increment in points. So for example, in geometry, after exposure to instruction, students earned an average of 14 points more than what they did on their previous regents grades. So here are some pictures of our students, and again, we wanted to make sure that they were engaged, that we had weekly professional development opportunities to meet with teachers. We talked about high-yield strategies, and what was really great was that we were able to collaborate and to see how other students, how other districts perform and how they engage students instructionally. So we were able to share best practices and collaborate with staff from other districts. Here's an ELA class, and technology was an integral part of the program, so students had access to Chromebooks throughout the day. And because of transportation, some students had to stay within the school and wait for the bus to come in the afternoon. So we wanted to make sure that students were engaged as much as possible. So we asked volunteers to come out, and they did, so that they could keep students engaged, so it wouldn't be so much of a study hall or just kind of a waiting tank for students. So Jillian Barnes came in and taught students Adobe Photoshop in the library. We had archery as part of our PE class. And Chris Chamoris came out as well from BOCES to teach students a Scratch program, which was a program that enabled students to create video games from scratch of their liking. And I'll play a testimony from a student that was unsolicited. She walked into my office and just started talking. So I grabbed my camera and said, let me just please record you. And so I did. It's a little low, but I think she sums up what really happened this summer.
Learning, like, the handouts that he does are like tests, but not tests, and I've gotten one wrong, and compared that to this past year is like amazing because it's a lot better, and just the style that he teaches is so remembering, and I love the improvements that I'm seeing. Like, it's so intrigued, I'm at a loss for words because I love it. Like, it's so amazing. I love learning here.
So in a nutshell, what she said was, The summer school program was the best thing since sliced bread. She loved it. She said that she really learned a lot. She said that the teaching was different, that it helped to enhance what she was able to gain on an everyday basis in terms of the lessons. Her teacher was a teacher from FDR, and she said that it was really an engaging process, and she was thankful for the experience. This was a student from Pine Plains who joined us. Thank you. Any questions?
Anybody have any questions?
What was the range of class sizes?
Oh, good question. So, and I'll go back to that for a second. So the range of class sizes was an average of 15. Some courses we were able to offer AM and PM. Some courses we were only able to offer AM due to the availability of staff and/or student interest. So for example, algebra, we had a total of 24 students that took algebra. Algebra 2, we had 7. Geometry, we had 10. PE, we had 8. English 10, we had 28, but we tried to spread out the students as much as possible. For math, for example, we had one teacher that was able to teach math, and so he had to teach a class with students with very different needs from all over the county, and so he had to differentiate his instruction highly. So I thought it was really monumental that he was able to encourage students in the manner that they received a 14-point spread on the Regents and having so many subjects in one class. We also offered co-teaching support in many of the classes, so we had teachers that were duly certified in special ed. So in classes like, for example, with his, we had the teachers to push in, and we also had a separate resource room for students that might need pull-out services so that they were able to get the accommodations that they would have gotten during the school year.
Okay. And anything else? I have just a comment.
Sure.
How did you pick the staff? When I visited, I went to a classroom and the teacher was from Red Hook.
Yeah.
Do they apply and then you decide who's going to be it, or is it, district people first and then if we can't fill the position, we go outside, or
Right.
how does it work?
Very good question. So we wanted to make sure that the process was equitable, and so it wasn't necessarily district first. We had BOCES put out a posting for what we needed, and there was a pretty rigorous interview process. So applicants came to BOCES, and they interviewed with myself, also Mr. Bill Ball, who was an administrator at BOCES, Dr. Jody DeLucia, and we did roundtable interviews. They went from section to section. They filled out an extensive amount of paperwork, and then we scored them according to a rubric. Then we came back to the table to decide what our best choices would be. And so that's how it was. So we had staff from Red Hook, we had staff from Dutchess Community College, we had staff from FDR, and again, you see volunteers came in from Millbrook, so it was a pretty eclectic group of people.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question. Did we hear from any of the other districts? And it sounds very successful. Is it word seem to be beginning to get out there that it may be even bigger next year?
That's the word that I'm receiving. I've received so many phone calls and emails, and BOCES just sent me a bouquet of flowers because they had their roundtable discussion a couple of weeks ago where they talked about summer school and the effectiveness of it. And every district that participated was really gracious for the opportunity, and they all thought that it was an excellent program. So as far as the information that I've received, they absolutely loved the program, and they thought it was very beneficial to their students because, again, 93% of students ended up earning credit, and many more earned credit for the Regents as well. So that's the information that I got. I know that initially BOCES was thinking of having it serve as a traveling program so that a different school would host summer school each year. So then maybe it's not in Hyde Park, but in a different district. So they're still toying with that idea. I'm not sure how that will pan out, but the response that I got was that they really loved the experience and the collaboration with Hyde Park. Everyone here was just so instrumental. I mean, I think someone thought it might be hot one day, and Dr. Reichert got ACs in the classroom the next day. So Jim and Elliot and everyone was just hands-on. Dr. Party, the assistant principals, the level of collaboration was outstanding. So I've gotten nothing but positive feedback. I did a SWOT analysis where I looked at some things that I thought might be weaknesses and/or threats to the program, but none of it had to do with our community or the stakeholders that we serve, but it's more so logistics of the hiring, the time commitment that it takes to do that sort of thing that I thought could be improved.
All right.
I'm surprised that I'm surprised that the powers that be would consider rotating it among school districts. It seems like it would make more sense if it stayed in the same location with the same core staff organizing it so that improvements could be made year to year. So one of the assumptions that's packed into that is that this will be an annual program instead of a one-off, as you will.
Right.
So is that and who, I guess I was under the impression that this was a Hyde Park idea and we invited other districts to send students. Is that a mistaken idea?
Yeah, this, I can take over for this one too. This actually came up at the, we have a countywide meeting of all the superintendents in Dutchess County, and the idea did not originate with Hyde Park. What happened was not this past summer, but the summer before, we had our own summer school for the first time in maybe, definitely well over a decade, maybe even 2 decades. And so, in sharing our experience, really it was the Pine Plains superintendent that had said we would like to explore the possibility of a regional summer school. Some of the smaller districts, Pine Plains, Weebatuck, Dover, they really can't afford, or it doesn't make sense to organize a whole summer school for a very small amount of students. So really, Pine Plains was one of the drivers to say, could we explore a regional summer school? And right away, it became obvious that if they were going to do a regional summer school for the first time, and we had just started one, would Hyde Park be willing to accept other school districts? So it was about a year long of discussion and planning, and we agreed to host. And I know you had said that there is conversation, and you alluded to that. And some of the feedback that we've had, the superintendents around the table, is that we're really leaning heavily towards keeping it in Hyde Park for another year, and maybe even looking at it as a more permanent concept. We modeled our regional summer school much around Ulster County's regional summer school, and what they do is they started out with one, and now Ulster County actually has 3 summer school sites. They have a north, a south, and a west, because they go all the way out into Sullivan County. So the Ulster BOCES actually organizes it, hires their principals, hires all the teachers as a BOCES. We also save money. It costs us less to run our summer school this year, because by running it through BOCES, we get some reimbursements. So now the talk has shifted from rotating it around to saying, why don't we keep it where it is? There's a number of schools districts that, are geographically, it's easier for them to access Hyde Park. Should we be looking at something in another part of the county? With that said, we have some very large school districts that, they just run their own. Wappingers, Arlington. Rhinebeck didn't even anticipate sending any students, so they said all along, yeah, that's fine, it's good, you're going to have a regional summer school, we're not going to send anybody. And then they wound up sending 6 people, and they were very thankful, because those 6 families were so thankful that they had that opportunity. So it's looking more and more, it's not a final decision, but it is looking more and more that we will have another regional. We're anticipating that it will expand, and we're also anticipating that it might be in Hyde Park again.
Based on your experience this year, what would you change to improve the program?
Thank you for that question. Well, I think that the experience was much like building an airplane in the air, because we were figuring it out as we were going along, but we had to fly. So with that being said, I think that one thing that I would change, and I guess it's a change by default, but there are so many components now that because the experience has happened that I could plan for more readily. So for example, I was like, we have to have a staff orientation. And I just thought that we should have a staff orientation. But I had no baseline to really, go from. But I realized that the opportunities for the staff to come together and to do some team building ahead of time was crucial. It was really important to get feedback. I wanted to do weekly staff meetings, and I wasn't sure if it would be overkill, but they were really grateful for the opportunity to collaborate and to engage in professional development and to talk about student progress. I think that it would certainly be beneficial to offer a Regents prep or something along that continuum for students that are coming in just solely for the purpose of the Regents, or for students that are engaged in the coursework as well. Because a lot of the teachers really stepped outside of the box to think of how to differentiate the teaching so that they were targeting the specific needs of their students that needed to take the Regents, in addition to making sure that the coursework was rigorous enough that they could say, yes, I truly got a meaningful experience in summer school.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question.
Sure.
So can students take summer classes to earn credits toward the diploma, or is it just to recover credits?
That's a really, really great question, and thank you for asking it. So credit recovery and credits toward the diploma are pretty much synonymous. So when students are recovering credit, it means that they took the class already and they failed it. So students cannot come, and I think this is what you're asking, if they have not already taken the course and failed it. So in order to qualify for summer school, you had to have been in the course, taken the course, and you perhaps were not successful in the course. And so this is an opportunity to regain credit as opposed to going through the course for the whole year.
Thank you.
Great question, thank you.
Great. That's it. Thank you, Lynette, that was wonderful.
Thank you for the opportunity.
At this time, may I have a motion for public participation, please?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. If anyone would like to address the board, please step up to the mic, and we'd be more than thrilled to hear your comments or questions. Gone. May I have a motion to close public participation, please?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on that one? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. All right. Brings us to the continued discussion on board goals, which it was down to one goal to complete, and that was the graduation, the one dealing with graduation. Let me just get there. So at the last meeting, we were talking about what goal was reasonable for the four-year cohort. Many of us had different opinions. We did get a really good explanation from the high school principal, Mr. Party, about the realities of what he's faced with. So given that, I think it was, I don't know if it was Mike that suggested the 80% or last year, but anyway, we have this as a placeholder, perhaps what we're going to finish out with, but we need to discuss it. So I'll open it up.
I'm comfortable with 80%.
And everybody, just so the public knows that while 80% may not be 100%, due to the fluctuation of the student enrollments coming and going in the past year, 100% would have been 85, because 15% of the students were either not going to graduate or were no longer in the school and couldn't be accounted for. So that makes, a 90% graduation rate somewhat unattainable. So I think 80, I'm sure Mr. Party would love to do higher than that. And I think at a later date, not today, we should discuss why there is that 15% that we're having a problem with, and perhaps look at programs that start in 6th grade instead of 9th grade in order to get that number down. But for right now, if everybody's happy with a rate of 80%, we'll leave it at that and move on. All right, thank you. And that brings us to the second reading of policies 1530, which is smoking and other tobacco use on school premises, 8133, bomb threats, 8133E, bomb threat incident report, exhibit, and 8211, access to buildings. Can I have a motion for those, please?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on that? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. And the same thing related to, that is the deletion for 8133R, the regulation, bomb threat regulation, because the items within that are already covered in the ones we just approved. Now, may I have a motion to delete that, please?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on that? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Let me just page down here. Okay, brings us to the consent agenda. May I have a motion for the consent agenda, please?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on that one? Or any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Let me just go down here. That brings us to 11.1, special education placements. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on that, Dan?
I've reviewed the packet and recommend its adoption as presented.
All right. All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. And I have a motion for 11.2, the amended agreement for special education services as recorded in the agenda, please.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on that? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. May I have a motion for 11.3, the amended agreement with the Anderson School?
So moved.
You got a second?
Second.
All right. Any discussion? I'd just like to say I did tour the Anderson School last Thursday and observed the work they were doing with the students from Hyde Park. It's a wonderful place, it really is, and it's actually cost effective. Talking with Heather, that it's actually as fancy and as good looking it is, it's actually cheaper than many of the other things that we offer our students. So was very pleased there. So all in favor? Opposed? Thank you. I have a motion for first consideration of 4710, which is the grading systems, 5100, student attendance, 5150, school admissions and residency, 5152, admission of non-resident students, 5220, school-sponsored students and expressions, 5420, student health service, 5420R, which is the regulation for that, 8121.1, opioid overdose prevention, a big topic these days, and 8121.1-R, which is a regulation for that. These are all things that were discussed in the policy committee.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on that? All in
There's
favor?
no concerns with it. Is there special training that goes along with the use of that overdose
Yes.
medication?
Yeah.
That the nurses will be required to?
In the, there's 3 options in that, and the option that we are operating under, yes, the nurses will do that. They are trained, and they are the keepers of the opioid
So there will
reversal drug.
be medication packages on site in all of the buildings to provide that? Not-
Yes, it will.
It's not
They're
something,
there
we have a
already.
student that has a need, now we got to go find it. They'll be available.
Yes.
And there is a nurse in every building to administer it?
Yes.
I mean, it seems to be a great step forward because the
Right.
significance of, from what I've read,
Right.
of identifying the need and administering medication.
Yeah, the
Is
bonus in
significant.
high school is that the SROs are also qualified to administer, so that's double, the same in the middle school. No. So we took a vote, right? Do we take a vote? Oh, all in favor? Opposed? Thank you. That brings us down to, hold on. Uh, 11.6, which is the Ralph Smith Elementary School local, did I miss one? Oops, sorry. 11.5, the first consideration of policy for deletion, which is, oops, number 6254, non-resident tuition, and this policy information is in other policies. I have a motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I'm curious how this fits into the overall package of policies. So we're deleting our policy concerning non-resident tuition. Is it replaced by a different policy or combination of policies?
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
it was incorporated into it, wasn't it? When we
Yes,
discussed.
yes, this
oh, geez.
incorporated into.
It was
go
in
up.
5152.
Right,
Yeah, okay, I just wanted to be certain I was reading that correctly.
yeah. All in favor? Opposed? Thank you.
Stop.
Yeah, all those were reworded, that whole string of things, and reorganized, and in some case changed the number of things, so, but it's all still there.
Okay.
All right, now we're at 11.6. I have a motion for Ralph R. Smith Elementary School Local Assistance Plan as noted in the agenda, please.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Could someone give us a quick oral overview of what this is doing?
Yeah, Ralph R. Smith has been identified as a school that's underperforming in specific areas. I believe it's still students with disabilities. And what it does is, it says that the school has to come up with a very specific plan to address that specific underperforming area. And it's happily one of the things that you actually get extra funding to help you address. So the
Okay.
plan that you have there is the response to their identification and what they're going to do to have interventions for those specific areas that they were identified for.
Okay, thank you.
All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. I have a motion for 11.7 HPTA Memorandum of Understanding.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on that?
Just a question. The teachers weren't the sole chaperones at the high school for the event. Are they affected by this in any way? Will they get the additional monies as the teachers are for their their hours served up there?
I believe the chaperones from the other units get paid by the hour. I think it's in
This only
the
covers
teacher's
teachers.
contract, for weekend events or night events, they have a certain dollar amount they get paid. So in the past, when graduation had been on Saturday, the rate was higher. So this is just to get the rate to the same that the teachers were paid in previous years.
So this agreement is specifically because of a difference in application for the teachers? All right, thank you.
All right, all in favor? Opposed? Thank you. All right, may I have a motion to adopt the board goals for 2016-17, including the one that we just approved earlier on?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Any of? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Well, that brings us back to, public participation. May I have a motion to enter public participation, please?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Well, ladies, anybody like to address the board? Lynette, you want to give your presentation again, just to, get a practice in? All right. All right. May I have a motion to exit public participation, please?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? There are no other matters deemed necessary by the board. Subcommittee meeting reports, or any subcommittees that?
Well, the DLT has met twice since we last
Oh, that's
met.
right. Yes, we did. Yeah.
The DLT facilities meeting in the evening went extremely well.
Oh, good.
We had a good turnout, and we gave an update. There wasn't much of an update on the instructional end because the facilities evening meeting came first, but thanks to Roger's suggestion, we actually met at FDR, and we talked again about looking at science labs, and we also talked about a little bit of backward planning. What would the timeline look like if we were to go out for another capital project? And before we broke up to go visit the science labs, we talked about, this is a big endeavor to look at any kind of a capital project. And so as you look at our science lab, I just ask people to think of a little bit of an essential question. Why science labs? Why now? And we went into our science labs, and Mike Ruella joined us, Elliot joined us, and Kim Neisel joined us. And they gave us an overview of the labs and the shortcomings. And by the time we got back to the library, things began to crystallize, and they crystallized in such a way that even I hadn't imagined they would do so. And the first was that we think we have our real verbal visual, and that is somebody said, our science labs were built prior to men landing on the moon. And if you think about the advances in science and technology pre-landing on the moon, that's what our students are working with. The other thing that became crystal clear was that it's interesting that we're focusing on the 4 C's, and I didn't even say, think about this in terms of the 4 C's, but both from the student perspective as well as what Mike Ruella had said was that the actual limitations of our science labs inhibit critical thinking. The types of experiments that we have students do are so prefabricated because of our limitations of our lab that students spend more time struggling because they know that only it's a prefabricated experiment, there's only one acceptable answer, so they spend more time, if something goes wrong, trying to figure out coming up with the right answer than any process of critical thinking, discovery, or any true experimentation. They took it further, and the students were saying that the ability to do the lab and then collaborate by just based on the layout of the room alone made it extremely difficult to have that kind of scientific inquiry. So very quickly, we got a verbal visual. It was totally linked to limitations in critical thinking and collaboration. And finally, one of the things that came out was that in any modern science lab, there are safety precautions around there's a term they use from the wet sinks, the wash sinks, the storage of chemicals, the heat and fire exposure, and from a safety point of view, our system is not safe. And so it was really amazing to look at that and come up with those crystallizations in a short period of time. We will be traveling to Vassar College. One of our community members on the district leadership team is retired from Vassar, and Vassar has just recently completed their science
This year.
building, yeah. So we're going to get to go take a tour of the Vassar Science Building. Vassar had at one point had, biology over here, chemistry over here, physics over here, and now everything is to bring STEM together, science, technology, engineering, and math, and really think about this as a think tank. So a couple of years ago, the team visited some other high schools, and now we'll have the opportunity to visit Vassar College. And the next district leadership team we will host at Haviland Middle School so we can look at the middle school science labs. We also had the district leadership instructional team met yesterday, and that was a very productive meeting. One of the things that we needed to do was update our master strategies plan. Some of the rollout of our coherence plan, we thought we could do it all at once, and we realized we needed to stagger the timing of bringing the parents and the students on board after we had really brought the staff, the entire staff, up to speed about what it means to really focus on critical thinking, collaboration, communication, and creativity. So we revised most of the master strategies plan. We examined our professional development plan for the remainder of the year and made some adjustments, and so we made a lot of progress, and that was.
Okay. I'll just make one comment on the science lab. The professional development is equally as important as the actual physical upgrade of the facilities because of all these differences and because of the outcomes that we want to accomplish. It's a different mindset, so don't skimp on the professional development.
Yeah.
Okay, that brings us to upcoming meetings.
Well, there's just one other thing. James will be running tomorrow in the cross-country Mahals. He's telling me he's pretty sure Hyde Park's going to take the title again this year.
Yeah, I won't be running. I'm injured. Yeah.
Oh.
All right.
I'm sure Hyde Park.
What are
is
you
gonna
trying to
take
say,
the
James? We got a
champions.
bunch of mutters on the team? We got a bunch of mutters on the team?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
They're ready.
Everyone wins.
1 o'clock, right?
Did they tell you you're going to have to
Yeah.
wear snowshoes?
No.
Oh, okay. Okay, upcoming meetings. Friday, November 4th, and Saturday, November 5th, at 7 o'clock, is the fall drama at the FDR High School. I understand it's quite good, so if you can get to it, it's a great night out. Tuesday, November 8th, there is no school, because it's finally Election Day, and maybe we'll be done with all this. And Thursday,
Maybe.
yeah, Thursday, another important event, November the 10th, 6 p.m. at the administration office. There will be a transgender forum. All are invited, and hopefully we can have some good discussions on this important topic. The next board meeting, which was scheduled for November 17th, will be held November 10th, Thursday, November 10th, 7 p.m. At the administration office. And Friday, November 11th, there is also no school because that's Veterans Day. So that's it. There's no need for an executive session. May I have a motion to adjourn, please?
Before we go there, can I ask, what is the exec session going to be earlier on the 10th? Because you have the transgender forum at 6?
Maybe we could move it to 5? But, yeah, 5. We could do 5 to 6.
Yeah, and I think I'm the only cabinet member here that evening,
Yeah.
right?
Thanks, Jeff.
I'll be here.
Linda is
Oh,
going to be
okay.
here because, yeah, we
Okay.
found out of a, yes.
All right,
Because Linda's going to be presenting.
all right.
It's a new development.
Is that settled? What, 5 to 6?
5 o'clock.
5 o'clock will be,
5 to 6 exec, and
right, followed by transgender forum, followed by the board meeting at 7. Wonderful. Now, may I have a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on that? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. And thank you, ladies, for coming. Always appreciate it.